Welcome. I'm Jeff Moore, Chief Information Officer for the Valmark Financial Group. And with me today is Wesley Cunningham. He's an intern developer, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what it's like as a day in the life of an intern developer at Valmark. So, Wesley, welcome. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your major? Maybe a few quick hobbies.
So, I'm studying computer engineering at the University of Akron. I've been going there since high school. I started out in CCP, and then I'm expected to graduate next year. I've been at Valmark for about 6 months now as an intern developer, like you said, and then just a couple of hobbies. I like doing jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, and Star Wars.
Star Wars. I know you're big. You're probably going to drop some Star Wars quotes today. So before your internship at Valmark, what kind of jobs did you have?
I had jobs kind of everywhere. My first job was at a car wash, and then I went to Chipotle and Best Buy. And so that's where I really got a lot of my technological kind of experience before Valmark.
Okay.
And it allowed me to look into the technological side of helping everyday people.
Okay.
And suiting them with the best computers that they needed. And it was very nice to go along with my education and my job experience before Valmark.
Cool. So you had a little bit of technology experience working at Best Buy, but no development experience, right?
No development experience whatsoever.
This was your first foray into doing any sort of development.
Correct.
Okay, interesting. So, but you have a lot of friends that are developers.
Yes,
right?
Because in my program, I made friends with tons of people, upperclassmen, as well as people who are in my grade. And so that was very nice to kind of have peers to help us through the program and then to talk to while we were in our internships as well.
Okay, so you had some kind of peer groups to compare experiences to. And I guess maybe we'll just dive right into it. Like, what did you get to do? So what was your expectation coming to Valmark? What did you think was going to happen with this internship, or what were you hoping would happen?
What I was hoping was to practically apply everything I learned in the classroom and like what I learned in theory and actually apply it in a work environment. So it's very easy in a class to be like, hey, here's strings and arrays and all the core components of coding, but you never really work on a large scale project. So like I worked on projects where we create our own string class, or you fill an array and make a palindrome and have it output to the terminal. And I never really worked on anything practical, and that's what I was really wanting to do, is kind of get my hands dirty.
Yeah, actually have something that would have like a business impact or result.
Exactly.
Okay, so you came to Valmark. What were some of the first things we had you do here?
The first thing I did was learn SQL coding because I only learned C++ at Akron, and so I learned SQL, and I worked on a practice SQL query that one of my other coworkers had worked on a week prior, I believe, and then I moved on to learning C#, HTML, JavaScript, and I think at this point I'm up to knowing 5 languages, and then I learned the React framework as well on the current project I'm working on.
Okay, so speaking of current project, maybe you just tell us a little bit about, so we gave you a kind of, I call them some warm-up exercises essentially, and then we gave you
a big project.
Big project, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your big project.
So it's called the Subscription Manager Project, and it will allow for member offices as well as reps to manage all of their subscriptions, whether it be pending business reports, and I believe it's investment reports as well. And this is a big deal because right now in the department, somebody has to manually go through and do all those tickets. And so I'll automate that process and allow each member office to do it themselves.
So we're going from, we had this part of our technology, right? Someone have to put in a request to get some of these reports changed, and now advisors and assistants will be able to manage their own subscriptions for some of these proactive reports we send out. Yeah.
And so what was nice about that is it was my first big project to work on by myself, because I'd worked on another smaller project with my manager. But with this one, it involved C#, SQL querying, the React framework, which is a combination of JavaScript and HTML. And so it was just a combination of all these things I had just learned over the summer. And it's been a very good exercise to understand how a project starts all the way through to the end, which is hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully in the near future. Yeah. So you really got to see kind of how all the different layers work together. You weren't kind of just in one silo per se.
Yeah. I went through the entire stack in
Yeah,
this project, which was very nice.
Yeah. And earlier this summer you were telling me about some of the internship experiences of some of your friends. Like what and I didn't realize that. Like what were some of the things that your friends or your peers were telling you?
Yeah. So one of my good friends, he was at an internship, and all he really did was just look at a sheet that had possible errors that users could run into, and he just debugged those problems. He never learned any code or worked on any projects or got his hands dirty with anything. And he kind of felt empty by the end of the summer. He's like, I worked 40 hours a week, but I didn't learn anything to help boost me forward in school. To where this semester, I feel much more comfortable with my coding, and I feel like I have a lot more resources as well, whether it's other coworkers in the office. If I run into problem on a problem that I'm having in school, then I can ask, hey, can you guys help me take a look at this? And that was really nice as well, to just have more tools in my tool belt, basically.
Yeah, so let's dive into that for a second, because so I think two ways that working at Valmark was a little bit different. One is you got a real project, you got to talk to like real people, you got to get outside your cubicle, you got to learn the stack. But I think it would be a lot for someone to take kind of their first project and be completely on their own.
Yeah.
Right. So you did not do this. We did not just like put you in the corner and say, good luck. Tell me a little bit about some of the resources that were put around you and kind of like your manager or mentor and how that worked.
Yeah. So it was nice. So Steve, my manager, he really helped me through the process of starting up the project, because like I said, I never seen the beginning stages of a large scale coding project. And then he gave me the outline, kind of what we wanted the end goal to look like. And he helped me through every step of the way while I worked kind of in the intermediary stages. And then there were also other coworkers in the office, like Dennis, for example. He was very crucial in helping me learn the React framework, because it was something very new to me, combining two new languages that I had just learned, and understanding when I was entering into HTML land, leaving it, and entering into JavaScript. It was very confusing at first. So it was nice to have people in the office that helped walk me through that process. So then I could do it on my own in the later stages.
Yeah, they really kind of accelerate your learning, right? Some real practical hands-on. You could see code samples. You could literally ask them like, hey, why did you do it this way or do it that way?
Exactly. And what was nice too is Valmark has so many projects as well written in the React framework, or even just if I needed help with C# methods, there's plenty of stuff in there that I could go back and look at other people's projects in the past. And if I had questions about what they were doing, or if it was a new method that I hadn't seen done before, I could just go walk to their desk and just ask them how they did it. And it was just a very open line of communication, which I appreciated.
Yeah. So one of the challenges too is having somebody new on a project. We still need to have a quality output, right? Like it can't just, we got to ensure that your code's good, and we use a code review process. Do you want to talk a little bit about like kind of how you and Steve do your code review? Yeah.
So I believe this project was broken up into 4 sections. So we work in sprints, which are 2-week intervals. And so for the first portion of this project, I believe it was just the skeleton of the code. So I just wanted to get the SQL query down and then some of the C# methods. And that was my goal for, I think, 2 or 3 sprints, is what that took. And so Steve and I were working through that, and then he would check that off at the end of those 3 sprints. And then once he checked that off, then we moved on to the next portion. And so we just kind of worked in chunks of 4, and he would code review each point and make sure that my code was up to Valmark standards.
I think sometimes people get nervous with code review, or they feel like they're getting judged or whatever. How was that process of having a senior developer look at what you had written and given feedback? I mean, did it feel like it was like school, like where you're getting like an A, B, or C, or how was Steve's coaching style, and how did you find how that worked for you?
Yeah, it definitely was a great learning experience, because Steve obviously knows much more than I know as a senior developer, and knows the latest and greatest in C# and really any language that I would ask him about. And so it was great seeing, I did it in 10 lines of code. This could have been done in 1 line of code. So I never felt like I was getting scolded or told that I did something wrong. It was just, hey, you did it this way. Here's a much more efficient way to do it. And it was always great because Steve would explain exactly why it was more efficient. He just didn't say, hey, do it this way.
Right. So it really got your brain flowing and thinking, and it
was more of a discussion.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's the ideal outcome for a good code review. Okay, so we've talked about some of the work stuff, right? But one of the other fun things about the internship is all of the other fun things outside of the sort of 8 to 5 work. So I know you've gotten to participate in some fun events. Tell me maybe your favorite event from the summer you've gotten to do.
Yeah, so my favorite event was probably the golf outing. That was a lot of fun. I'm not a big golfer myself. I've gone a couple times in my life, so it was a really great event to just get to network with other interns as well as other full-time employees in the company. So I was on a team this year with Michael McClary. So it was great to hear what he did on a daily basis, as well as some of the other interns, because being an IT intern and not a finance major or a business major, I don't really know what goes on in every aspect of the company. Yeah. So hearing what some of my peers are doing in the company was a great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of touching on other people being in finance, what was it like? I think sometimes when people are in technology, they think they need to go work at a technology company, right? So what was it? Did you have any like anxiety or fears coming to a financial services company doing IT, or how would you explain that experience?
Yeah, I was definitely unsure of what the entire internship was going to be like as a whole, just because it was my first internship experience.
Yeah.
And it was the first time anybody in our grade was really going to do internships. Of course, we had heard from upperclassmen, but so then in the finance regards, I wasn't sure how much I personally needed to know about finance, and I was a little nervous because I don't know a ton of finance. I don't have a minor in finance or business, but it was great because, again, there's just an open line of communication in the office, and everything was explained to me when I came in of what our typical business practices are. And Kelsey was a great help with that in IT because she's worked in almost every part of the company and knows it inside and out.
Yeah, that's a great thing. She's a great resource, right? She has good business knowledge, and she works inside of IT, like literally the desk right next to yours.
Yes.
So you could learn a little bit, but you also were able to do work that didn't require necessarily in-depth knowledge of the business per se for the specific parts. So
yeah, it was more so kind of learning as I went. So when I was working on a specific task of a project, I was focusing on that side of the business. Now, there's still plenty of the business that I haven't covered yet, but I'm sure I will as I have projects that delve into that side of it.
Okay, Wesley, last question. What piece of advice would you give to another intern looking for an internship?
Make sure that you're looking for somewhere that's willing to help you, first and foremost, that you can apply practical or the theoretical knowledge that you learn in the classroom into a practical application. And I would say just make sure it's a fun environment as well, and somewhere that you can really jive with and where that line of communication is there, because that was crucial in the internship. And like I said, I had friends who they had internships and they didn't feel like they got something out of it, but that's because that line of communication wasn't there. I had intern check-ins every month, I believe, or every other week.
Yeah. And so that's not in IT, right? So you've got your IT mentor / manager, and then you also have someone in HR that's helping you as an intern get through what it's like life at Valmark as well.
Exactly. And so it was great having that where Cass would constantly ask, hey, is everything going all right? Is there anything that we can do to better improve your internship experience? So it's always great having somebody outside of IT as well, making sure that you're getting everything that you want from your own internship. Cool.
Awesome. Anything else we should know about you today?
I believe that's all.
Okay, great. All right. This has been Jeff Moore and Wesley Cunningham, IT intern developer. As always, stay safe.